When I think about feeling hopeful or hopeless, one of the things I keep in mind is that however I'm feeling at any given moment is deeply influenced by what's going on in my body and my brain. So we tend to think of our emotions and our way of being as disconnected from those things, but we're deeply influenced by what's happening with neurotransmitters in our brain and body, like serotonin and dopamine. And sometimes we can be feeling great, even when things seem terrible, and vice versa. We can be feeling poorly when things are going fine. So, I try to pay attention to those things. One of the things to really be aware of is that there's a profound connection between how we're sleeping and our state of mental health and well-being, or our state of mental illness. This connection is so profound that scientists aren't entirely sure if sleeplessness or disrupted sleep is a side effect of mental illness or if it's a cause of mental illness. When I worked as a chaplain in the hospital and served the units where people were hospitalized because of mental illness, the number one question that was being addressed with their doctors is improving their sleep to where they were well enough that they could be discharged from the hospital. So, we think of science as providing all the answers, but there's so much we don't know about what goes on in the brain with mental illness, because we can't pop it open and take a look. They can, measure brain activity, but that's about it. And in fact, a lot of medications for mental illness, they aren't quite sure how they work. And that's why if you've ever been diagnosed with mental illness and sought medication, you know that it's a lot of trial and error. I just invite you to be aware of that, however you're feeling. Another quick thing to share, I've been learning so much about dopamine, which is so fascinating to me. But one of the dopamine is a neurotransmitter in our brain, very complicated. It does lots of things, but one of the things it does is it gets released when we're doing something that's pleasurable to us. It can be different for different people what releases dopamine for you. But one of the things to know, and dopamine is part of what makes us feel good. But one of the things to know is that when dopamine goes up, it will subsequently go down. This is how people end up struggling with addiction. Substance makes their dopamine go way up, then it drops. They feel like they're in pain, and they seek more and more of the substance to try and alleviate that pain. That happens to those of us without addiction in much smaller ways, but definitely something to keep in mind in December. I was just went to a family memorial, which was very sad, but it was also so wonderful to be with family. And it felt so nourishing and so good. And then, the memorial was Monday and I came back home. And then, Wednesday, wasn't feeling really great. And it could be for a lot of reasons. But one of the things I thought about was that I'd had a pretty good dopamine peak from being with family, and that there can be a subsequent drop. And so it's just something to be aware of if we're doing festive things or social things or being with people this month, to be aware that that can happen. And seeking out gentle dopamine raisers is part of the solution to that problem, but it's really complex, and you can look around YouTube for more information on dopamine. But I wanted to share that. It's not unusual for us to wrestle with feeling poorly after we've had a big feel-good experience. So something to focus on this coming week, month, however long you want to. But I encourage you to think of caring for your body as you would care for a small child. We're all going through so much. So think of a child who's staying home with a cold. And so, consider, where's a soft blanket, a couple of soft blankets, a soft sweater, something warm to eat or drink, soup or tea, curling up in a comfortable place with a pleasurable book or something benign to watch on television. We take care of our spirits and emotions when we take care of our bodies, and it's especially a good way to take care of traumatized bodies. And whether you're feeling traumatized or not, we are still living through a trauma. We've been through so much, still going through so much. our fears are stoked from the idea of a new variant. So just as I always say, be gentle with yourselves. But if you're having trouble, if you're struggling to feel well, feeling a bad mood, sad, whatever it is, again, if you can think of how to care for your body in that loving, gentle way, that can be helpful in getting through those rough times. So, yeah, happy December. Here it comes, however we're feeling about it. Blessings and love to each of you.